Then wake it up.
Hey, our how? Everything we got down this kickoff, everybody got me? Sir. Your how, your heart, your purpose, and your pride has to show on this. One rep, one play, everything you got. Feed us, let's go. We got to do our job to the best of our ability with incredible how. That's it. Everybody got it? Come on, baby, let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Ski-U-Mah Weekly, brought to you by the Minnesota Lottery. I'm Justin Gard from KFAN Radio and the sideline reporter for the Gopher Football Radio Network. We just showed you a bunch of sights and sounds from the football victory over Middle Tennessee State, so it makes perfect sense that the basketball coach, Richard Pitino, joins me here as part of our first segment here. Makes sense, right?
PJ must be recruiting or something.
PJ Fleck is recruiting this afternoon, so we went down the hall and we grabbed Richard Pitino to join us.
Great.
But you were at the game on Saturday. I'm curious, at least for a portion of it, what did you think? What were your thoughts?
Well, actually, I hung out with PJ and Heather after the game over at his house, and I said, listen, I said, I don't know a lot about football, but I'm not trying to kiss up, but you guys look well disciplined. You obviously look well coached. They don't beat themselves, you know, I mean, from what I watch, and I think he's underrating his defense a little bit. They're pretty good.
Yeah, Jacob Huff is going to join maybe next week or maybe next week. I'm not sure. I'm trying to get Jacob Huff on the show. But they are good. A lot of good linebackers. And they do the Jim Tressel thing where they just run the ball and then they keep running the ball and then the next thing you know, the game is over. Makes sense, right?
No doubt. And you could tell they're managing the game the right way. They've gotten better, you know, from the Buffalo game to the Oregon State game to last game. You see that improvement, you know. So I've been to some of his practices. You know, football is a little bit different of a dynamic than basketball. There's so many people, so many players, so many coaches, and obviously the biggest thing you have to do in football is you have to be organized. And he's just a machine with all of that. Their whole coaching staff does a great job of that.
A reminder, we're going to take some questions here from you, the audience, in just a little bit. Go ahead and throw them in the comments section here at Facebook Live. And one of our best questions will win the Minnesota Lottery prize pack of the week. Let's talk about your team. I know you've had them back on campus here for a couple of weeks. We've had the tough injury with Eric Curry a couple of weeks ago. How have you kind of rallied through that and changed through that? And how have the first weeks of practice gone besides that?
Yeah, we're allowed 2 hours on the court, and so it's been a little bit difficult because Reggie Lynch had minor surgery. He was out about a month. He's still out. Probably got another week and a half or so to where we can get him through contact. Dupree McBrayer has been out for a couple months over the summer with a stress reaction, so he's not fully healed. He's not allowed to play through contact as well, and Devontae Fitzgerald's not fully cleared. So you got 3 guys who are going to play major minutes who are not fully cleared. So we've had to get creative. We're putting in our offense without any defense, obviously, and just trying to break them up into groups, spend a lot of time on that, as well as much shots as we can get up as possible, and then really teaching the fundamentals. You know, it's kind of a good thing, to be honest, that we can't, because sometimes I get a little excited, I just want to play.
Sure.
It's good that we have to slow down because we don't have the bodies, and we're really teaching right now. So we think that in a week and a half, next weekend, about 2 weeks, we'll be ready to go where all 3 of those guys will be cleared. We'll have to be careful with Devontae Fitzgerald, even more so now with no Eric Curry. I mean, losing Eric Curry, you know, you hate to talk about it, but that hurts our team. You know, unfortunately for him, because he had such a good summer, he was going to take the next step. So it's disappointing for him, but we just got to find other ways for other guys to step up, whether it's Michael Hurt, Devontae Fitzgerald. Maybe we got to play small. Maybe we got to figure out some things. But it's a challenge, but that normally happens in this sport.
You talked a lot about last year, how you kind of had to take the year before, the team did, and just kind of put it away quietly and just go to work. How have they handled the success part of it? You talked about that being your next challenge, is handling that. How do you feel like they've handled that mentally? Have you noticed any difference from year to year?
You know, it's funny. Well, it's totally different. I do think it's a lot easier to handle failure than it is success. It's a lot easier when people talk bad about you. They say you're going to stink, and they bring up all these things that you can tell your team, block out the noise, right? I mean, that's irrelevant. Well, now when the praise comes, are you still saying that or not? And so that's what we've really tried to educate our guys on, is that human nature is going to allow you to get a little bit complacent. And you got to fight it. It doesn't mean you're bad kids, doesn't mean you're not winners, doesn't mean you're wrong. So we've talked a lot about that. I mean, we've got a lot of things to be excited about, and that's something where there's a balance of making sure everybody understands. I mean, you look at season ticket renewals. I mean, 98%. I don't know how many programs in the country have that. That's pretty amazing.
And you've added like 1,000 new ones from what they tell us.
And we're almost sold out in student season tickets. That'll be sold out by the time we start. So there's a lot of great going on. I mean, recruiting is going phenomenally right now. I've seen some have listed as top 10 in the country. Obviously we're doing great locally. We've got the Athletes Village. We have all the things that are really, really excited, but we've got to take a step back once the season starts and remember what got us here. And it's simple. It's really not as complex as everybody thinks it is. So just getting those guys to just take a deep breath, say thank you, but then move on.
As we went to tape, or as we recorded, I was told there were 38 student tickets left for the whole year. 38 more opportunities if you're a student and you're looking for a ticket. Sarah is our first comment from Facebook Live. Who do you see as being the mental leader this season?
Me? Do I count? Can
you
I
don't
be the
count.
mental leader?
Okay. Hopefully, for all our sakes, you're not. Hopefully, it's somebody else.
A lot of it, to be honest, is the older guys have got to be those guys. And they've been through it before, and what's good is we had some young guys that had gone through a lot of big games last year. But I think Nate Mason could really separate himself because he's been through ups and downs, and he's been on the court. And he's always had a really, really good demeanor about him. So he's gotten more vocal, which is important. So I'd say Nate Mason probably.
Joel Hansen is our next question. Which is the toughest non-conference matchup on the schedule for the men's basketball team? He's making you pick. These are the best questions. They make you pick out of a series of a lot of good options.
Well, anytime you have to play on the road, it's tough, right? I mean, obviously Miami at home is a very, very challenging game. They're probably going to be picked top 20 in the country. Some have them being picked to win the ACC. Harvard is another game that's going to be very, very challenging at home. But then you look at Arkansas, at Providence. Those two games are going to be extremely challenging, as well as Alabama and the Barclays Center. So I can't pick one, but I look at those five as extremely challenging. And then you look
and those come basically all one after another, right?
Well,
that stretch pretty close.
And
with
then
the
you
Big
have
10 games.
the Big Ten games.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like we have a non-conference anymore and schedule anymore. Maybe that's why I'm not sleeping very well these days. But it is exciting. I mean, it's going to be great for our fans. I think, the team, our schedule. I think that's why you're seeing such a good season ticket. Those season ticket sales really going up.
Stefan is next. Is there a certain player you believe that has improved this offseason? You already mentioned Eric Curry.
Eric Curry, but he can't play.
But he can't play. There's somebody else that's taken a big jump.
No, truthfully, I think that I'm looking at Nate Mason, Amir Coffey, Jordan Murphy. Those three guys had good years. You could tell they want to make the next step, that they want to take the next step. Where those other guys, the Bakaris, the Gass, Michael Hurt, all those guys who want to play more, they're really working their butts off. Dupree has not played a whole lot. Devontae we've been careful with. Reggie we've been careful with. So the summer was good, but I think the fall is really where I'm going to be able to gauge who's going to really make that leap.
Last thing for me, we are in the Bierman Gym, which you kind of remodeled once you got here. I'm curious what this little area meant for the team and your program, and then conversely, what the new building is going to mean once you get into there.
It kind of sounds silly, but this was one of the biggest things we did in my first 3 years. And, I had never wanted to talk a whole lot about facilities and what we didn't have. I was very, very big on let's control what we can control. Let's fix what we can fix right now and do our best to provide the best student-athlete experience we can. And honestly, at this level, you got to have a weight room, academics, strength, all that stuff, and your court has got to be under one roof. So we were able to do that. It's not perfect by any means, but now the new facilities, for basketball alone, and I've been in a lot of facilities, I don't know of a better practice facility situation than what we're going to have in January. I'm hoping January, whenever they, how that goes. But, to have a cafeteria, then to have all your academics, a leadership center, your basketball, strength and conditioning, all that stuff brand new, players locker room, players lounge, all under one roof. It's going to be spectacular. It's going to change all the sports, and we're all going to be better from it. So I'm excited about the next step for all of our programs. we're not where we need to be. We're excited about where we're going, but there's such another dimension to all of Minnesota sports, and this Athletes Village it's going to take time like anything, because you got to recruit to it, you got to build off it, but it's going to elevate everybody.
Thanks for stepping in while PJ was recruiting. I know you were thrilled.
Yeah, no problem. Always happy to help.
Next time PJ recruits, we'll talk to Richard Pitino. Actually, no, when the basketball season starts, we'll be talking to him a lot. We thank Richard for joining us here on Ski-U-Mah Weekly. We're going to talk cross country when we come back, and here's a little preview of what we'll be discussing.
Hero. I wanna be a hero.
Welcome back to Ski-U-Mah Weekly. You just saw a little bit about what's going to happen this weekend at Les Bolstad Golf Course and the Roy Griak Invitational. To talk about that, Coach Sarah Hopkins and Steve Placentia, cross-country coaches here at the U. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure to be here.
I believe you've once called the Griak a spectacle. You've told me that over the years.
Yeah.
Is that a fair representation? What can people expect this weekend?
Very fair. I think we are at over 4,000 runners. We have 10 races throughout the day. We try to treat the Griak like a spectacle, like a big event, like a football game, like anything else. Oftentimes cross country, you show up, you run in a field, and you go home, and we try to make it a little more special than that. Obviously to honor Roy, who was the longtime coach here, which Coach Placentia can talk more about, but also to just honor cross country. We love the sport and we want to make it a big deal. So 10 races, Division 1, 2, 3 college races, high school races. There's even a little kids fun run if you have a little runner that wants to come out and run 100 meters with Goldie. So we just try to make it a really fun day.
And how much is it, now that Roy's not with us anymore? It was always about him, but how has that even changed now, Steve, since he passed a couple of years ago?
Well, in the wake of Roy's life, I think the legend even grows a little bigger over time as we move forward. And so, now when I talk to my teams and stuff, there's a number of kids who don't know who Roy was any longer. So we try to keep his memory alive and keep the values that he had and moving forward from that standpoint. He used to have a saying, he had a Serbian mother who used to tell him all the time, malo po malo, which means little by little. And that's a great word for kids in running because it takes time to get good in this sport. So year by year, you have to get better and better. So we tell them malo po malo.
So when you talk to them, the kids that maybe don't know him, and you talk about the values, what other things do you discuss with them, or what do you want them to take away?
Well, you wanted them to take away the kind of person that he was and what he stood for, the work ethic that he had, the life that he had, a World War II veteran, came back to school here after the war, served a high school stint where he coached football at Nicollet High School. He said his budget was 2 helmets at that point in time at Nicollet High School. And then, and just moving forward from there, he came here in 1964, was part of our department for maybe 45 years or so, and that's something that you rarely see anymore. So.
you mentioned all the runners that are going to be there from divisions 1, 2, and 3 in high school, and how rare is that to have all those groups at once? I've been following you on Twitter, and it seems like the high school runners in particular are just showing up in droves for this weekend.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. I mean, I don't think there's really another meet in the country. There's big meets, but big collegiate meets, big high school meets, but I don't think there's very many. There was one at Michigan State last weekend that had high school, but they don't have all the divisions, and so we've, Coach Wilson and Coach Placentia and GRIAC have built it up over time. It started as just a little Division I race, and it just kept adding and kept adding and kept adding. And we could probably add more if we really wanted to, but I think our officials and everybody else who works hard for 12 hours that day, we don't need to add more races to their plate. But I think for high school kids, it's a great experience to come and see the college races, get to experience some college cross country. And I know from talking to high school coaches, they really enjoy the day because it does put their kids on a pedestal, which is nice.
What do you want to see from your team this weekend, as opposed to as you keep moving forward through the season?
Yeah, it's still somewhat of an early season meet. Our main focal points are in November, the Big Ten championships, the NCAA regionals, and hopefully the NCAA championships. So you can start earning at-large points at this meet. We'd like to be able to earn a couple at-large points. There's some good teams here. There's 4 of them that are definitely ranked ahead of us. So if we can pick off a couple of that group, it would be a good weekend for us.
And for you, Coach?
Yeah, I think it's similar. I always talk to my team in terms of like a semester, and so this is our first big midterm. We've had some quizzes. The quizzes obviously matter, but they don't matter as much as the midterms. And like Coach said, we want to get at large points. Last year we didn't make the national field, not because we didn't perform well at the end, but because we didn't have enough points accumulated from the season. And so I think with a little bit more savvy team this year, last year we ran 4 freshmen in our top 5, and so I don't think they really quite understood how important early season meets were, because in high school they don't really matter as much. I mean, you obviously want to run well, but now I think the whole group understands that what we do Saturday is going to matter for November. Obviously it's not the be-all end-all, but it does matter, and so that's really the same kind of thing. Our goal is to keep improving and take another step. The Big Ten course isn't home this year, it was home last year, so obviously this meet had a really big ramification because of the course, but the Indiana course is pretty similar from the challenging standpoint and things like that. So I think just running another successful race on a hard course, which is what ours is, and gaining confidence as we go to hopefully continue into October and November.
Last question for both of you. As you look at the new building, just over through maybe your office windows are closed now and you can't see the new facility and the new Athletes Village and everything. I know there's going to be a new track facility as well. What do you take, or how is that going to improve your programs here?
Oh, I think it's going to be super helpful for us just in moving forward. The resources are available to the athletes. We're going to be adding a training table for all athletes that they'll be able to take part in 1 meal a day, and that's a fantastic recruiting help, and it's also help to the athletes in terms of their lives and what's available to them. So the study areas that will be in there, the leadership center and that Land O'Lakes Center, that's going to be really something for us. And then even more so for our athletes specifically, we're breaking ground on a new track the 20th of October. So that's going to be a huge day for our program because all of our cross-country runners do run track as well. So everybody's looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I think, to piggyback off of that, obviously all those things as well, but Coach Pitino said it earlier, just having everything close together. I think we are landlocked in Minneapolis, which can sometimes be hard to find land, but it also helps us because we can't just spread out. I mean, you were in Iowa and things get spread out because there's just area to keep going into sprawl. And for us, we get to have all of our facilities really close together. So with the outdoor track being 200 meters behind this building is huge because then our athletes aren't going all over campus. They can come one-stop shop. They can come to our offices, they can go to the lift, they can go to their lift, they can go to the training room, they can go eat, they can be at practice. Everything happens in a 1 square block area, which is pretty rare. And I think it's a testament to what the university wants to do, and it was really wonderful for us when they announced where the track was going to go that it is here, because that really does help with the daily life of our kids. And then obviously all the extra resources. I think the quotes of how much bigger the study centers are and things like that, our 2 teams are pretty good academically, but they get that way because they really are committed to tutoring and doing stuff, and just to have more space and more area for them to thrive academically is going to be huge, because that's something that our teams take pretty seriously.
Sarah Hopkins, Steve Placentia. I hope it's a little sunnier than it is today at Les Bolstead on Saturday, but thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Roy Griak this Saturday at Les Bolstead Golf Course. Thanks everybody for tuning in on Ski-U-Mah Weekly. A reminder that Sarah Kern is our Facebook winner, our Minnesota Lottery prize pack winner. She asked the question with Coach Pitino earlier. Sarah, you will get a Minnesota Lottery prize pack. Don't forget, we'll be here Mondays. You want to add to that?
It's because you have a good name.
It's because you have a good name. So not only do you get the prize pack, you get the shout out as well from Coach Hop. We'll be here every Monday at noon on the Minnesota Sports Facebook page. Thanks everybody for watching.